Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Leave. It's a Shudder original, and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, March 17th. So this is a no-spoiler review. Now, I will say something subtext/thematically at the very end, but I'll warn people before I do that. Not going to give a lot on the synopsis because I don't ever want to give too much away in these reviews. So I wasn't the biggest fan of this film, although there were some really good things about it, so I feel a little bit split on it, but hopefully people, if they do check this film out, really enjoy it. It wasn't fully for me, and I will tell you why it wasn't fully for me, but I will also tell you about those good things with the film. This one's directed by Alex Herron, who did lots of music videos and other music-related content. This is our first feature-length film. Written by Thomas Moldestad, who also wrote Cold Prey, which I've seen Cold Prey a long time ago. I think I actually own the DVD somewhere around here. Excuse me. Magic Silver, Escape, Tainted, and Zombie Lars. That one sounds interesting to me, Zombie Lars. This is actually a Norwegian film, and there is actually some subtitled Norwegian language spoken in it, but for the most part, it is in English. There are just small parts of foreign language, so if you're not into reading subtitles, you won't have to read that many subtitles. Again, Shudder Original coming Friday, March 17th. Synopsis. It's about a girl who's supposed to be going out to college. She was adopted when she was young because she was abandoned as a child. And instead of actually going to college, she heads overseas to look for her true parents and kind of unlock the secrets of, why she was abandoned and what's going on with her true blood family and all that stuff. So I'm going to leave it there. It's a horror film, obviously, so there's a horror aspect somewhere, but I don't want to lead people too much, so that's about it. Immediately, one of the big issues, the lighting. It is one of those films that it's very dark in nature, very drab color palette, bleached colors like a lot of films in horror have been doing lately. I'm getting a little bit sick of it. It's not really the fault of, the people making this film necessarily, but what is their fault is the fact that lighting in darker scenes is not very good. So there are a lot of times where you're kind of struggling to see what's going on. I would recommend if you're going to watch this in a 100% dark room. Yeah. And even then, you may have a hard time seeing things. So just saying, this is one of my pet peeves. So just so you know, literally just said that. The opening credits have an interesting and well-shot montage of things that make up some of the backstory for the film. I'm a fan of that. If you are going to do opening credits, have something going on that's interesting and giving, in an artistic way, very well shot, giving some backstory, some context to what's going on with the film is a great idea. So I love that they start the film this way, and that kind of speaks to another thing that I want to piggyback off of with this. This film looks good. It's shot very well. I think Herron does a really nice job as a director, and cinematography is really good. It looks good. There's some really nice, smooth camera work. There's some really inspired camera angles. It's just well shot. It looks nice. Now, other than the kind of like, it's too dark at times thing, it's aesthetically a very pleasing film. And there are a lot of other really well done technical things. I think the acting, for the most part, is quite well done. I think the script writing is pretty solid, except for the fact that it needs more story to it, because it's like an hour and 48 minutes with credits, and it's way too long for what it is. It starts to have really big problems with pacing. At some point, it feels like the film is just running in place, and you're kind of rehashing the same things. You're not really getting anywhere in the film. So I really think that it could have benefited from being cut down a bunch. Well, not a bunch, but yeah, a bunch. At least a half an hour, gonna be honest. I think it could stand to have at least a half an hour cut off of it. Yeah. But yeah. They do not waste much time getting into the intrigue of the film. And that's one of the good things, is they do hook you early with an interesting concept. They do throw an investigative aspect at you, which obviously is the girl trying to, find her original parents. So that's kind of interesting. That's fun. Her being in a foreign land is another interesting thing. And I think that they pulled that off really well. They do a really good job of creating this atmosphere of like feeling alien, like a stranger in a strange place type feeling. I think they did a good job of capturing that type of feel and atmosphere. And that's one of the things that I really did enjoy about the film. So, again, it's quite well shot. The investigative aspect of it will help at times drive the interest forward on the film, even when it's starting to drag a little bit. But then at some point, it stops paying off, in my opinion. And then at the end, you kind of get more. But there's this big gap where, like, you're getting tidbits of information that are keeping you interested, and then nothing, and then the end when you get more stuff, and you have your, big ending. Pretty good sound design in this. Whenever I take note of the sound design in a film, it means that it was done well. It means that it stands out to some degree. And I think they did a good job with the sound design. This goes back to what I was saying about, from a technical standpoint, a lot of really good stuff done in this film. The score, while it is well composed, it is very over the top. This is another one of my pet peeves with films, is scores that just scream at you. And the score for this one feels like it is screaming at you for the entire film. Even in moments where it's like, not a whole lot is going on, but the score is cranked up to 11. I don't want to experience a film that way. Like, I like a more subtle score. But then again, like I said, that's just a personal pet peeve. Maybe other people feel differently, and you'll be totally cool with it, potentially. That's fine. For the most part, the character interactions are realistic. They feel realistic. There's one or two interactions that I felt kind of weird about, that I was just like, these aren't feeling too realistic. But for the most part, they do feel really realistic, and that speaks to the ability of script writing. It speaks to the dialogue writing in particular, and it also speaks to good acting, being able to, pull those performances off. Again, pacing is quite slow. For the most part, this film went where I thought it would, and it just kind of ends up playing out in a bit of a flat manner, in my opinion, because it does go where I thought it was going to go. Now, there are plenty of times where I see films and it goes where I thought it was going to go, and that's fine, because it's still good. It's still telling a good story. This one, it just kind of feels like it falls flat with where the story goes. They have a really good concept. They have a really good start to it. But then it just feels like it starts losing its way. It starts petering out. And it really does feel like they were kind of stretching things for runtime. Yeah. I'm not saying that was the case, but it feels that way. The ending is pretty drawn out, which actually makes it hard for it to build any sort of momentum. This is another problem I have a lot of times with modern horror films, where you're trying to build something up in the end to kind of like have a big finish, but it gets drawn out so long that there's no ability to like really build tension or really build dread or really keep people all that engaged. And unfortunately, that for me is what was happening with this film. It really felt like it just couldn't get momentum. It couldn't even get the pacing back at the end of the film that it had in the beginning of the film. And it just went towards making the ending feel very blah. Plus, story-wise, the ending is just blah. I mean, it felt kind of like, so what, in my opinion. This film actually does have Watcher vibes, in my opinion. The Chloe Okuno film, Watcher, which I liked a lot more than this film. I really did like Watcher quite a bit. Especially the camera work, atmosphere, and that feeling, like I was talking about before, of a stranger in a strange place. So atmosphere-wise, really well done. There's a lot of good stuff, like I was saying, but there's also like a very big issue with the story, in my opinion. Okay, real quick, people who don't want like the subtext / thematic stuff, shut this off right now, because I'm going to tell you one thing about kind of the subtext here. Well, it's not really subtext, it's pretty in your face, thematic thing. This film deals a lot with family, trying to know who you truly are, and dealing with what you may find out in that process. I think that's done okay, but again, going to the overall story. They could have done a lot more with this. It could have been a lot more engaging, and having more to the story would have really helped with the pacing. So just saying, it needed to be fleshed out a lot more, in my opinion, and just be added to a lot more. The other thing is, you don't have all that many super interesting characters in the film, so I think it suffers a little bit because of that. Well acted, well written from a dialogue standpoint, but not all that interesting characters, unfortunately. So, oh man, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm between a 2 and a 2.5, but I think I'm going to go 2.5 because I do feel really split on this one, because there were so many good technical things. Like, it looks really good. The atmosphere is really well created. The acting is good. The sound design is really good. The score composition is quite good. Just a lot of things like that. So that's going to get me up to the 2.5, but know that I was between 2 and 2.5. So just so you have an idea. Now, this is where I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on this film if you've seen it at this point. We can talk spoilers in the comments. That's cool. Go ahead and put it down there. Love it, hate it, in between. Let me know. Give me like a sentence or two. Because I don't like people just being like, I like it, I don't like it. Because that doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. So yeah, just give me a little bit. I'm always interested in differing points of view in particular. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me something that will kind of change the context of the film for me, the way you interpret it. I like that stuff. So anyway, do me a quick favor, hit subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate that if you haven't done it already. If you have already, you're awesome, and I appreciate that. Hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, which at this point is 3 or 4 a week. And yeah, thanks so much for taking your time to check out this video. Until next time, keep it brutal.